When it rains, it pours, and seemingly it is pouring heavily at the Treasury office because as things stand out, the issue for debt management in the country is now spiraling out of control. Now, there are two headlines that you really have to put into proper focus for you to understand where we are in terms of our debt management. Let me take you back to 2020 when we got into the coronavirus pandemic period. That's when we knew exactly how much money we needed just to get the country out of the hold of the coronavirus pandemic. But during that entire time, and I would like to quote Ukuri Yatani, he said that our country has never defaulted in terms of a debt repayment, and it didn't foresee us defaulting anytime soon. Back then, we were offered a COVID-19 debt relief, but we did not take it because seemingly from the Treasury's view, this was going to affect our credit rating, which, as we do know, experts have been saying that, well, it has been pathetic. So any other move that we could have made during that time, it could have not really affected our credit rating, but we did not take it. Fast forward to the second week of January 2021, Kenya has accepted a debt relief offer from a club of the Paris, which includes the likes of Canada, who now have given Kenya a 30.9 billion shillings debt relief that is going to spread all the way to June. So those are 6 months all the way to June. Fine. Again now, Kenya is running again and is really talking about taking another debt relief again from, let me say, China. And they're saying that, well, this is going to be a relief to the country as we try and navigate the coronavirus pandemic. But now, those two options that we're talking about right now, the debt relief, they were not on the table as we're clearing 2020. And I'll tell you why. Those two headlines come on the heels because, well, as it stands now, is that we have to actually ask for debt relief. IMF is pushed Kenya into also considering the way in which we define debt. Now, according to IMF, that we also have to include, number one, parastatals, public-private partnerships loans, counties as well. Now, when you factor in all this, you get an additional 3.4 trillion shillings on our debt profile. Meaning that if you put together where we are right now in terms of our debt, the 7 trillion, add on top of that, you're going to get 10.4 trillion. Now, why is that important? That is important because we do know in 2020, we introduced an absolute figure into our debt ceiling, 9 trillion. And then the Treasury office has been telling us that the only time we're going to touch this 9 trillion was 2022. Turns out we're already there and beyond that. So now Treasury is saying that the only way to look at this in terms of managing it is to gradually therefore introduce this debt into our profile. But what does that mean? I mean, even if you say we're going to introduce 1T each year, that means we're just 1 trillion away from reaching our debt ceiling, which is what? 9 trillion. But aren't we there already? Because if you put that together, it means that even our debt ceiling is already at 10.4 trillion, which essentially means again that any talk about Kenya's debt levels being sustainable is now being quashed. Because if you're talking about 10.4 trillion at the start of 2021, isn't that ice already cracked? Right, let's take a look at exactly what has been our external debt burden trend, and we will also look at that all the way from 2015. And this data is going to be very important for you to really understand, because yes, we keep on looking at it and we'll say, if you go back again to 2013, you find that we have been on a gradual level, that from 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, that's exactly where we are. And 2013 is a very notable year because I'll also tell you that, well, that's when we had a change of governance in this country, because that's when we didn't have the now government that is just with one budget cycle left in office. That's when they took office. meaning that even how they've been consuming debt within that period has been really something that we really have to talk about. What has been their strategy? All right, let's look at our public debt as well in terms of the data that we have for you. You're also going to see that our public debt performance trend has also been that. Look at it. That yes, when we talk about the growth rate vis-a-vis our public debt, you will also see that all the way to June 2020, again, there's been not bigger disparity in terms of the value and also the growth rate in terms of our debt. And economy as well. So when you talk about those two factors, and you'll actually start therefore to say that indeed our debt levels are quite questionable now. Is it 7 trillion or is it officially 10.4 trillion? And if it is, this conversation about Kenya now going for debt relief, which we didn't foresee back in March, because we were told that the government is now going into the market for cheaper collateral loans and grants. Is it a conversation anymore that we should be having? Or is it Kenya bowing to pressure from IMF? Because at the end of the day, again, we do need that money from them. This morning, we table that conversation. You can also get involved at Metropole TVKE across all your social media platforms. 20146 is your SMS line as well on those lines. Now, other news that you're waking up to, we do know that KCB's I would say international investor portfolio is really getting affected. Let's look at the numbers now. As of March 2017, they accounted for 29.25%, but we are opening 2021 with them just being at 19%, so a 10% drop in their international investor portfolio. I'm also talking about that foreigners sold 161.8 million shares, which pretty much accounts to 6.17 billion shillings. Sort of talking about exactly how KCB has been standing in that line. But that notwithstanding, we're still having KCB, that is the biggest lender by assets based in the country, really being strong in terms of their foreign and local investments. Therefore, let's look at what the performance indicators were in the whole of 2020. As we open at 2021, you'll actually also see that it's quite strong. But that period between June 2020 was exactly what was exacerbated by the coronavirus pandemic. That's exactly why it looks like that. Other news that you're waking up to this morning: Equity has received a 50 billion loan for SME lending, which is also going to expand the lending portfolio this year. And remember, this one is actually fueled by the European Union. It's called the NASRA, FMO's financial program that supports young female and migrant entrepreneurs. So for those who've been interested in actually looking at equity for lending, they do have that 50 billion, which they're going to push to you as we open 2021. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage.